Shalom. First off, I want to give all praise to the Most High YAHAWAH, BAHASHAM, YAHAWASHI, BAHASHAM, Rakakadash. Just want to talk, a little bit about, the Most High's name. We're supposed to exalt His name. It has nothing to do with us, right? So, a little side note, that's why I don't be sitting here posting selfies and doing all that, doing side-by-side videos, making it about myself when in everything we do, we give all praises to the Most High. So, anyway, off topic, I'm gonna just touch in on what they've done to get us deceived and to get us away from the Most High's name. All right, and as we got closer back to our Father's name, right, they did even more to get us away from it. Right? Yeah, you know how. I forget what movie that is, but they say, man, we should have never gave you niggas money. Like, right. So when they should have, never let us start reading again. Let me say that, right? Because they beat our language out of us, beat our tongue out of us, dumbed us down. They killed off all of our libraries during slavery. Our libraries, AKA meaning our elders, right? The ones with the knowledge. And then they start, brainwashing us, if you will. Anyway, so I want to get into that, right? Show you what they did with the name. We're going to go into the Paleo Hebrew, right? We're going to go into that, and then we're going to go into the other languages as well to show the deception, right? To show what they've done, right? English, keep this in mind, English is the newest language on the planet, right? So it's a bastard language. It's the language of Satan. So in the end times, right? Remember, in the end times, those who worship the Most High in truth and spirit, meaning, have the works, keeping the law, right, etc., and in spirit, we gonna call upon the true name. So in the end times, Satan was gonna try to get us out of our language, right? Rediscovering our tongue, right? Being, born again, as people say, right? Or, and we don't get into that, or getting us away from finding out that name. Here's an example. During slavery, those Hebrew slaves, right? Those black Hebrew slaves were singing what? Kumbaya, right? Why weren't they saying Kumbaya Jesus? It's a reason behind it. Harriet Tubman spoke Hebrew. All the slaves spoke Hebrew. The first so-called black church in the whole United States, they wrote and spoke in Hebrew. So if it looked like a dog, smelled like a dog, barked like a dog, take a poop like a dog, it should be a dog, right? Meaning if we did all this stuff writing in Hebrew before all these, Edomite Hebrews over there in Israel, before all this stuff happened, if we were the only ones on the planet writing, speaking, talking, having customs like that, that would make us the Hebrews, correct? Right, that would make us the Hebrews, right? So in today's day, we would say it looks like a dog, barks like a dog, smells like a dog, but then we would call it a giraffe. Nah, it don't work that way. That's what we do when we do that. So I'm gonna go into that a little bit, and then we're gonna wrap it up. So let me see. Let me get into something. So I want to go to Luke chapter 10, just to get started. Luke chapter 10, verse 18. Right? We're gonna get into the name, because the names we use today, right, are names they've tricked us into calling, and those are names for Satan, right, or Hashatan in the Hebrew, if you will, right? So those are his names, right? We learned this in school by Greek gods, Greek goddesses, all this different type of stuff. But let's get into it, right? Luke chapter 10, verse 18. And he said unto them, I beheld Satan as lightning fall from heaven, right? So even YAHAWASHI, that's his real name in Hebrew, it's not Jesus, all right? We're going to get into that. He's saying, look, bro, I beheld him as a lightning fall. So he's letting you know he's every time the Lord opened his mouth, every time YAHAWASHI opened his mouth, he spake in a parable. So he going to say one thing to you, but it's going to mean double. And if you apply, Job, I think that's chapter 11, verse 5. Or it's chapter 5, verse 11. So somebody look that up. And he says there are double. So every time if the Lord speak, it means double. Then you add that on. I mean, he could say one thing, and it can go for all generations. It could mean four. That's what I'm saying. Anyway, so he beheld Satan coming down as a lightning bolt, lightning strike, same thing, right? Or as lightning, right? Like as in the Greek god Zeus. Remember, he would always hold that lightning bolt. This is why on all of the front of the state buildings and in the capital of the United States and in Rome, they got a Zeus up there or Apollo. Same thing. You go, you pledge Greek, right? You pledge into Apollo just because they say, well, we use the name of the Lord. Well, you saying Zeus, that's Satan. That's their God. On the money, it says, in God we trust, right? So I just want to show that scripture. Let me get into something real quick. Let me see if y'all can see this real quick. I decided just to write it out real quick, all right? All right, so we're in the paleo, all right? So this is the name of the Most High, right? The God of Israel, right? It's YAHAWAH, right? And remember, his son came in his name. This is in Paleo Hebrew. This is YAHAWASHI, right? I don't argue with people who put A on the end, right? As long as they have the sound right, it's YAHAWASHI. It is not Yahuwah, right? So all y'all who read that Sefer Bible, the Edomites created that on purpose. It's wrong, okay? There's no U sound in the Paleo Hebrew. And this AH at the end, that's the wrong Semitic or Shemitic, however you want to pronounce it, pronunciation or translation. It's wrong. They put that in the Sefer Bible. Edomites wrote that because when you call upon this wrong name, this is another name of Satan, you lose understanding. The Most High not with anybody who calls on this name. Remember, his name and his secrets are revealed unto the prophets, unto the servants. I'm going to keep going. So the real name of God, write this down, store this. You need the name. Matter of fact, I guess I'll title it that, right? You need the name. It's YAHAWAH. You need this. All that call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. That's why they put the name Lord there. No, you need to know this name. Kumbaya. You need to know this name. Memorize it. That's why they beat the name of white Jesus into us to get this name out of your head. You start calling upon them names, you're going to start seeing them chariots. So what they did was they didn't translate it. A translation would mean it would be exact. So it's transliterated. They changed his name, right, to Yeshua, right? This is why when most people first start waking up, they say, well, I know we're the Hebrew people, right? Or Salakia. Or if you're coming from the church, right? I'm trying to make it where it stay. Or if you're coming from the church, you say, well, I know we're the Hebrew people, everybody in the Christian church now, and they just Google what's God's name in Hebrew. This going to pop up. Remember, they run Google. It's going to say Yeshua, transliterate. That's wrong. That says Shua, right? And that means in the paleo to blot out or destruction. Ain't that one of the 10 commandments? Don't take the name of the Lord in vain. It's not when you say, oh, God dang. You say, ooh, don't use the name of the Lord in vain. No, it's to make it meaningless, to blot it out. That's why they changed that. You're breaking the 10 commandment already. From there, it was transliterated again by the Edomites, the Romans, the Greeks. These are most of, not all, but most of your so-called white people today. That's an identifier. So this is why we say, oh, well, people say, oh, well, white people are Edomites. No, it's an identifier, right? It's an identifier, a major identifier, right? They transliterated, right? This is why when you get the King James Version 1611 Bible, it says Isus, right? Or Isus, however you want to pronounce it, right? Isus, right? That's translated. Notice I said translate. They transliterated Isus, right? This is during the Renaissance period, right? Renaissance means rebirth. That means literally. So it went from YAHAWAH, this is Christ's name, YAHAWASHI. They transliterated to get us confused. They put it Yahusha, which means destruction. They blot out his name. Then in the Renaissance period, what they call the Middle Ages, if you will, it's Isus, because the letter J did not exist nowhere in the world. So if you say your name is John or James or something today, the letter J didn't exist before the 1500s. So understand this: the sound J, jump shot, Jordan. That sound didn't exist. That means hail Zeus. Remember, we just read that YAHAWASHI Christ witnessed Satan coming as a lightning strike, which is Zeus, right? We read Luke 10. I'll get to Revelation 2 later, because when Christ was, I'll say resurrected, if you will, because Christians know it that way, right? When he came back, that's Revelation chapter 2. One of the first things he stated, he was letting us know who Satan was, that he was Zeus. So from there, remember, it was translated by Edom, the Roman, the Greeks. It was transliterated. It was transliterated, Edom, the same people, by the British Empire. This is during the rebirth, the Renaissance period. Okay? It was transliterated from Esus, which means hail Zeus. Then the letter J came into existence in the 1500s, right around the time after we went into slavery. Remember, we were in slavery in the 1400s. People act like we started in the 1600s. No. That stuff you see in Washington, D.C. is a lie. It says we went to slavery in 1600. That's a lie. Columbus discovered America. They say he discovered America in the 1400s. We were already at war with these devils. Keep that in mind. So it was transliterated in the rebirth, the British Empire. Remember, it says in the scriptures, the Edomites said they will rebuild, and the Most High said, the Most High Yahawah said, I will throw down, in the book of Obadiah. They translated it, or transliterated it to Jesus, right? Which is Jesus, which still means hail Zeus. They're saying hail Satan, okay? The letter J, go look this up. The letter J was invented in the year 1524, about 30, 40 years after slavery started, right? By John Trissino. He was an Edomite during the Renaissance period. Go look it up. Go look it up. Okay? So from there, I do want to show one more thing. I said go look it up, but look, I already pulled it up. From there, right? This dictionary.com, right? Look at this right here. It wasn't until 15 out of the J, letter J get its sound, right? I'm going to just skip down in the middle. It wasn't until 1524 when John Giorgio Trissino, an Italian, they're Edomites, Renaissance, right? Grammarian known as the father of the letter J. He made a clear distinction between the two sounds. So that means the Edomite knew what he was doing with the Esus and the Hail Juice and the Jesus. This is when the Bibles came out. This is when you start seeing them different type of Bibles, and you say, this is from the 1500s. King James, the real King James, he was black, he was Hebrew. He was at war with the Vatican, with the Romans, with the Italians. He was at war with them because he knew what they was doing, right? So this is, anyway, well, I'll keep going. We'll look that up later, right? Y'all can see that. Look it up on your own, right? You see he changed the letter J from Yeshua. He knew what he was doing. Look that up later, all right? I'm going to get into something else. Okay, now I'm going to get into, I want to get into Revelations, because we need to touch on that, okay? Because when YAHAWASHI Christ, in the book of Revelations, he told us who Satan was and who his children were. Bloodline matters, right? So, when people say, well, white people, Edomites, yeah, that's an identifier. The majority of them are, yes. But you might run into somebody who look like Blake Griffin's son, and he's an Israelite because of who his father is, all right? But for the most part, most of them are, okay? Now, this is what Christ was telling us, that the Edomites worship Satan, right? Oh, yeah, I going in on somebody if y'all saw that. That the Edomites worship Satan, and they're his children. So let's get into it. Revelation chapter 2, verse 12, right? And y'all look this up, right? Message, right? What's that? Revelation 2, verse 12. And to the angel of the church in Pergamos, write these things, said he with a sharp sword with two edges. I know thy works and where thou dwellest, even where Satan's seat is. So he's telling you this is where Satan is. This is where he lives. These are the people who he's among, right? And thou holdest fast my name and hast not denied my faith, even in those days where Antipas was my faithful martyr, who was slain among you where Satan dwelleth. This is where Satan dwelleth. So what you do is you go Google the altar in Pergamos, and you see who the people were. They were Edomites, they were Romans, they were the Corinthians, they were the Galatians, not the Hebrews who were in Galatia, not the Hebrews who were in Corinth or Corinthia, not the Hebrews who were in Rome. It was the Edom, because they ran everything. Everybody was tributaries to them, like during the Maccabees period. Pay your toll tax, right? Your income tax, luxury tax, property tax, right? If you, the United States has what they call U.S. territories. They're not a part of the mainland United States, but they U.S. territories. They subject to them. Like Haiti had to pay taxes unto France. They still Edomites in France, right? They're not Americans, they're not British, but they still Edomites. Same thing, okay? This is what Christ is explaining to us in Revelation chapter 2, verse 14. But I have a few things against thee. So Christ telling us, but he calling out the Edomite. He's saying, look, I got something against y'all. Like when you call somebody outside, like, nah, bro, box up. I don't mess with you, right? Because thou hast there them that hold the doctrine of Balaam, right? This goes back to the book of Numbers. This how you know the law and the so-called Old Testament ain't done away. Because when Christ, I'll speak it so Christians can understand, died and came back, he brought back up the law, which is something that the Most High hates, right? What they was doing. And he gonna say he hated too. That means he didn't die so you did not complete the law. Because he's telling you, he going off on them for what they gonna do to us right here in the end times. Christ was speaking in the future, all right? I'm gonna read the beginning of 14 again, Revelation 2 and 14. But I have a few things against thee because thou hast there them that hold the doctrine of Balaam, who taught Balak to cast a stumbling block before the children of Israel. So if we were in school, you would say, wait, pause, let me go back and see the doctrine of Balaam and what did he teach Balak and or Barak, if you will. What did he teach them? You're going to find out that that's your Christmas, that's your Saturnalia, that's your worshiping of Nimrod, that's your Ishtar, which is today's Easter, that's your New Year's Day, which is Janus. That's why it's in January. All these things, he says, y'all casting a stumbling block before the black people over there, if you will, right? So I'm saying this so people can understand. For you Negroes there in America, they casting a stumbling block before y'all, because in other parts of the earth, they don't celebrate Ishtar, Easter. They don't celebrate Christmas. They're like, what is that? We don't do that. They don't do Mother's Day, Father's Day. They don't do that. Travel, get your passport and go around. They don't do that. So he's saying you casting a stumbling block before them because you know who they are. So Christ pissed off about that, right? And he says to eat things sacrificed unto idols and to commit fornication. That's physically and spiritually, right? That's the satanic Roman Catholic Christian church. That's what he's talking about. But look at verse 15. So he's saying, and another thing, you know how we talk, one, that's the first thing he named in 14. Verse 15, he's saying, and number two, that's why he's saying, so hast thou also them that hold the doctrine, meaning the teachings, the customs, the ways, right, of the Nicolaitans, which thing I hate. So what Christ just named in verse 14 and 15, right? Well, actually from verse 12 through 15, he said he hates. So I'm going to back up. Let's look at verse 12. Look up the altar in Pergamos and see who those people were. They had the black Hebrews, if you will, because I'm saying that so y'all understand. Saying black Hebrews is redundant. That's like saying vehicle, automobile, car. So we know who the Hebrews were, right? I'm saying this so y'all can understand today, okay? So Christ say he hates what the people and who was worshiping at the altar in Pergamos, which they were Edomites, right? So look, you got to pause and look that up. Then you got to go look up the doctrine of Balaam and Barak and see their doctrine, see their customs, see what they was doing. You're going to find out we doing the same thing here in America. He said he hated. right? Then you go to verse 15 and say, also the doctrine of the Nicolaitans. Okay, the Nicolaitans, that's Nimrod, that's Saturnalia, right? Old Saint Nick. Look up Christian, look up the origin. Remember, the Most High, Yahawah, told the Israelites not to worship Christmas 1,500 years before Christ was born. In the times of Jeremiah chapter 10, he told them, don't you bring that tree into your house. It's like, what's wrong with you? The Most High went off on the Israelites for doing it because we was unknowingly or secretly worshiping Satan and we didn't know it. He lit us up. This was during the first Babylonian captivity, right? By the way, that's what the word Babylon means. We're in Babylon again in America. It comes from the Tower of Babel. It means babbling. It means confusion, confusion of the language, confusion of the words. Like I just showed it previously earlier in the video, how they changed the words. It's confusion. So we're back here in mystery Babylon, if you will, again, okay? So the doctrine of the Nicolaitans, that has to do with your Christmas, right? And everything that Walt Disney and all them does, it has to do with enchantment and sorcery, right? Nicolaitans, old Saint Nick, they was worshiping Christmas, they had all that stuff back then. Christ died and came back, so he didn't die so you can do this. This is the doctrine, it's sorcery, it's spells. This is why every time you walk into that church, okay? Every time you walk into that church, you're under a spell. That's why all those churches got those obelisks on the top of it. It's like a upside down ice cream cone. It's a witch's cone of power hat. Okay, so Babylon, confusion, babbling, mixing up the words. This is the Most High's real name. You need the name. It is not Satan's name. It is not Jesus. That means hail Zeus. This is why when you watch movies like Transformers, they throw in little secrets and little hints, right? They do that, all hail Megatron. They showing you what's really going on, right? So it's YAHAWAH. That's his name in the Paleo Hebrew. It's not that pagan name. For all y'all calling on that, once you see this video, you're going to be held accountable, right? Most High's name, Christ's name, they transliterated it to Yeshua, right? Shua means blotted out or destruction. You breaking the 10 Commandments, they making his name meaningless. It was transliterated by the Edomites because they've been doing this, Maccabean period and all that, Edom, Romans, Greeks, right? To Isus or Isus, right? That's mentioned here in these scriptures, right? Christ, the real Christ, YAHAWASHI, told us that Zeus in Revelation chapter 2, really 12 through 15, but Revelation chapter 2, he told us, the real Christ told us that Zeus was Satan and he observed him falling in a lightning strike. That's why Zeus has this. So Isus means hail Zeus, right? The letter J came out in 1524. He was an Edomite, a Roman during the Renaissance period, right? What they call the Knights of Templar and all them boys, right? They were at war with King James. He changed this I and J. He replaced it, transliterated. Let me go back. Salakia, transliterated. I want y'all to get the understanding, right? Transliterated to Jesus, which is Jesus, which means hail Zeus. All hail Satan. All hail Megatron. So with that, you need the name. Shalom.